Ahead of the crucial talks between the US and Russian sides in Saudi Arabia today, a Ukrainian delegation met with their American counterparts as part of peace negotiations.
And this was brokered by U.S. President Donald Trump. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov headed the Ukrainian delegation. He called the talks with the U.S. constructive and meaningful. In a post on social media, Umerov said the discussions focused on proposals to protect energy facilities and critical infrastructure.
Ukrainian President Zelensky also acknowledged the talks as constructive and useful, but Zelensky made it clear that it was Russia and Putin who need to end the ongoing war.
But no matter what we discuss with our partners now, we need to get Russian President Vladimir Putin to give a real order to stop the strikes. Whoever brought this war must take it back.
Even as the peace negotiations were underway in Riyadh, Russia launched drone strikes in Kiev, which led to a fire in a high-rise residential building. The overnight attack killed at least 3 people, including a 5-year-old child.
Meanwhile, U.S. Special Envoy for West Asia Steve Witkoff has said that Putin is not planning to invade all of Europe. Witkoff described fears of broader Russian aggression as academic. However, Witkoff said he was optimistic that a full ceasefire could be reached through negotiations between the two sides.
Now, the comments from the Kremlin made it clear that a ceasefire agreement would not be easy. In an interview to Russian state media, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said there were many outstanding questions and nuances over how a ceasefire could be implemented. He downplayed expectations of a rapid resolution, saying talks were just beginning.
Russian Senator Grigory Karasin, who will lead the delegation from Moscow, sounded equally skeptical. He said that Russia is hoping to achieve some progress in Riyadh, but would take a combative and constructive mood into the talks.
Now, earlier, Russian President Putin had highlighted Moscow's demands for agreeing to a ceasefire in Ukraine, and this includes a permanent Russian buffer zone, denial of NATO membership to Ukraine, a halt to supply of Western weapons and intelligence to Ukraine, and a fair division of land and assets, besides the resumption of the Black Sea grain deal. And for more on this, we are now being joined by retired Colonel David B. Desroches. He's a professor at Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies, National Defense University. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, U.S. and Ukraine officials in Saudi Arabia have wrapped up their talks. Now U.S. going to be talking to Russia. How positive are you about this shuttle diplomacy that the U.S. has been playing?
I'm not very positive. I mean, we've already heard from the Russian side, as you just reported, a set of pretty maximalist demands which don't indicate a desire for compromise. It's more a restatement of Putin's initial war aims. But it's possible that could just be posturing in public, and once they get into negotiating, the limited focus of this ceasefire on attacks on energy structures and free shipping in the Black Sea, there could be some agreement on that. So I'm guardedly optimistic.
Colonel, Steve Witkoff said he doesn't believe Russia wants to invade all of Europe. These are statements. And he also mentioned that this is a much different situation than it was in World War II. Now, we understand Steve Witkoff has met Putin already. He's spoken with him. What do you make of these comments? What do you think he's assessing after his meetings from Putin?
I think he's trying to portray that to Putin that he's not in a box that he can never get out of with the West. I don't think anybody has claimed that Putin's desires include control of Portugal or Spain. His desires are basically to reestablish the Soviet Union. And so the countries that are at risk if Ukraine falls are Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, the former Warsaw Pact. And I think Witkoff would, if pressed, say, well, that's a different issue, but, you know, it's his point, which I don't think anybody really disagrees with, is that, you know, this isn't about protecting Ireland from the Russian imperialism. It's about Ukraine and other countries that were in the Warsaw Pact or the Soviet Union.
And that being said, when you talk about defense strategies, UK is trying to up their game by putting more money into this. Do you think Europe is trying to see that now the US can back off? They're trying to now become the new US, probably replacing US?
Well, I think that they realize that there may come a time when they are dependent on themselves for their defense rather than the United States. And I think that, you know, this is an ambition of successive American administrations going back to Dwight Eisenhower. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. But the problem is the Europeans have neglected their defense for so long that, you know, when they have this conversion and start work on it, it's going to take them the better part of a generation, assuming that they don't lose their focus. It's going to take them the better part of a generation to reestablish a credible defensive posture and defensive capability. Right now, they just don't have it.
Colonel, you know, if you just look at all that's happened in the last 1 month, Ukraine agreed to that 30-day ceasefire. It did not take too long. And US, of course, is very optimistic. We even heard Trump saying that land would be up for discussions. The discussions haven't reached that point yet. It only reflects on the optimism that Trump has on these talks. But when you come to the Russian side, they're almost, they've got the Ukrainians out of the Kursk region. They're making advancements on the front line in Ukraine, in eastern Ukraine, that is. So the cards, do you feel they're more in Russia's hands as of now, and they are going to, and they're already saying they're going to be combative in these talks? So is it Russia kind of using this as leverage now to get their terms on this deal?
I think that's the impression that they want to give. I think that it's in their interest to portray a narrative that, you know, it's inevitable that Russia will achieve its war aims, and the only thing that is keeping that from happening is prolonged suffering and slaughter. I'm not sure that that's an accurate position, and I think that you know, I mean, I thought Russia would achieve its war aims in Ukraine in 3 weeks. So it's obvious that the Ukrainians have a say in the matter, that they are a far more formidable foe than many military analysts, including myself, thought. And I think that this idea that Russia will run the table is just not right here. I do think, though, that the recent events have bolstered Russian morale, which in many points is on the verge of collapse. So we'll see what happens.
All right. We'll see what happens is what I think everyone's waiting for at this point, because the Russian talks are yet to start, and we'll have a better understanding of where things are headed after that. Thank you so much. That was Colonel David B. DeRoche. Always a pleasure speaking with you, sir.
Thank you.